During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about how many acres a farmer can plant in one day.
All right, first of all, there's no set answer that every farmer's goal is 100 acres a day. No, it all depends on so many different factors. First of all, what crop are they planting? Think about it like this. If you're planting soybeans and you need to put on 150,000 soybean seeds per acre, well, you're going to be filling up that planter fairly often putting on soybeans. But if you're putting on corn and you're only planting, say, 20,000 seeds per acre, well, you can plant a long time if you've got a central fill unit. Now that's another thing. What is your equipment? Does it hold a lot of seed on it, or are you going to have to stop and fill all the time because you have some small little boxes? Boy, there's so many variables here as to how much a farmer can plant.
And let's talk about crops that we almost never speak of here in the show, like let's say tobacco, where you're going to literally transplant individual plants. Or how about almond trees? Or I mean, there are lots of different crops out there that we don't typically cover. What we usually spend time on here on the show is corn, soybeans, and wheat, because those are the three biggest acreage crops in the United States. So let's talk about those specifically.
All right, so for farmers planting, let's just say corn, for example. They've got a small window of time that they view as the optimum time for the maximum yield for their farm. So on our farm, for example, we'll say that window is April 10th to May 5th. We would love to get all of our crop in that window of time. Well, that's not very long. That's less than a month. So farmers do everything they can to speed things up. Now, planters are very expensive, so it may not be, I'm going to buy 18 planters so we can just plant everything right away. No, it's not going to be that. It's probably one planter or maybe two, but farmers are looking at how fast can I refill the planters so I can just keep the planter running more often.
Well, the other big thing is now they have what's called high-speed planters, so farmers could potentially plant 7 to 10 miles per hour. The next thing is wide planters are very, very popular now. I mean, 60 feet wide for a corn or a soybean planter, that's common today. There are actually some 90-foot and bigger planters that are out there. Now, there aren't a lot of those or anything. At some point, we're going to be limited and we just can't get any bigger. But the point here is, just imagine if you were running a 90-foot planter and you were going 8 miles an hour and you rarely had to stop. To Darren's point, if you figured out some way to fill that thing really quickly, you could do several hundred acres per day real easily.
Now you could use that same equipment that you're planting corn with to plant soybeans, but you could also use a drill. And if you're using a drill, sometimes behind that drill, you'll see a farmer pulling an air cart with a whole bunch of seed on there. Now, if you can load a large seed wagon and bring that into the field with you as you're planting or seeding the crop, man, you can get a lot of acres done in a hurry with minimal fill time there too.
Now, Darren said just a little bit earlier, planting corn, we have this window that's maybe 3 to possibly as much as 4 weeks. We have to get it done or we start losing yield, which means we lose income. That's not good. So it sounds like a lot of time, but here's the problem. We have frost, we have wind and rain and all these other adverse conditions that cause problems for us out in fields. In the springtime for planting, it's basically just, I'm worried about how fit is my soil, how wet is it. If my soil is dry enough, that's great. But it's very common where we lose half our days, if not even 3/4 of our days, that we could potentially plant to, hey, my soil is too wet, so I can't go. That's the reason why we're talking about this, and that's why every farmer is trying to get more acres done per day.
One of the other jobs that has to happen in the spring is weed control, especially if you have this week's Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to control it later in the show.